Welcome everybody to Talent Management Institute's 2020 in review. Today we're speaking with Kate Talty, America's Leader, Total Rewards and Mobility in Analytics at Lixil. Kate, thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Of course, Lawrence, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to start with you. So as a senior leader, what have been your biggest challenges in working from home or working remotely this year?
So, working remotely, actually, Lawrence, works for me, and I actually enjoy the flexibility and having the flexibility to create my own schedule. And I also lead a team across the region, so we're all in different um, time zones anyway. And so Zoom has been something that we've been using even before COVID. So it hasn't really been much of a challenge. Where it did pose a challenge with me was I hired two new members of Total Rewards this year, one in Mexico and one here in the US. And so working remotely definitely has posed a challenge in terms of creating, or building that work relationship. It's not as easy to connect with somebody. It's really just different. I just feel like it somewhat hampered the progress of building a relationship with a new employee. And onboarding itself is difficult not only for me but for them because they can't just give me they can't just go to my office and ask questions, or so we always have to kind of work uh, with a schedule in order to connect. But that really has just, that's the only part of working remotely that's posed a challenge for me this year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in your experience, what are key factors in motivating a workforce during a pandemic?
So I think what's been really important because we are working remotely are a couple of things. So the first, which is something that we've been doing year round, is communications. So we have been, as an organization, doing a good job in communicating. Our leaders communicating constantly with their employees, but since COVID broke out, that those communications have become more prolific. It wasn't just communication from top down, but you've got communications between employees. At Lixil, we use Workplace. And so Workplace, for those who are not familiar with it, is like the Facebook of the workplace. So we have employees connecting with other employees, leaders connecting with everybody in the world. We also have, Lixils. We happen to have a culture that loves pets. And so we even have like a pets page, workplace page, where everybody just posts, um, you know, uh, something about their pets, or whether it's their puppies or their cats or their birds. So it's been a really fun avenue to connect. And so definitely communications has been key in terms of, the challenges brought on by working remotely. And another factor I think that's important in motivating and engaging employees is, we continue to recognize and reward them for doing a really good job. I mean, this year really brought on a lot of, it challenged us to do things that we haven't done before because we're dealing with something that was so unexpected and unprecedented, right? And so, we have to acknowledge and recognize those the work that everybody had done or is doing to continue to adapt to this strange new world that we're in. And so I think the communications, reward and recognition, I think those are two key factors in maintaining and motivating our employees.
Awesome. Well, I want to expand on the communication bit a little bit, because recent surveys have come out that found communications from employers are more trusted than government communications, media communications, even other businesses. So as you were saying, it's not just top-down communications that are so important. It's all communications. So what role do you think that HR has to play in ensuring these effective communications across the business in a world where lines between the work and personal life are so blurred?
Yeah, so, as HR professionals, we have the opportunity to affect change because of our roles and where we are in the organization. We have access to our employees, and we also have access to our leadership. And so as HR, professionals, I think in order to support um, that blurred line between personal life and work is the constant reminder and communications to our employees and leaders, to respect everybody's boundaries in terms of, how to manage those blurred lines. Um, I believe that that's also based on everybody, all of the stakeholders involved. I mean, the employees should have a say about their boundaries. HR, the leaders, the direct supervisors, the even people in our plants, right? I think it's about setting expectations and being transparent with those expectations. I think those are the key factors in terms of how do we manage the blurred lines? What is HR's role? HR's role is to constantly remind everybody, all of the stakeholders, about these boundaries. Encourage respect. I mean, respect happens to be one of our major values in Lixil, and we always have to treat everybody with respect. And respect, I think, is respecting everybody's boundaries and setting boundaries and being transparent on the expectations.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you talked a little bit about your experience in working remotely even prior to the pandemic, but so many companies have never dealt with a largely remote workforce before this year. What do you think, speaking to those organizations, what are some key factors for these organizations in managing a newly remote workforce?
Okay, so so everybody now is working remotely, and I really feel that the organizations all over the world, showed their resiliency and adaptability in terms of, okay, when COVID hit in March, right away a lot of organizations uh, switched to working remotely, and the way, and it's December now and we're still productive, right? I've hardly heard any organization that reporting that their employees are less productive, or that their operations slow down. Some operations, yes, may have slowed down because it was necessary, because some plants in our example had to shut down, and that is because we wanted to ensure that our employees were safe. And so we had to do what we needed to do. So we had to make some difficult decisions as well. So there's that balance between understanding what our employees need as well as what the business needs to continue operations. So, managing a remote workforce, definitely prior to COVID, a lot of organizations already had the flexible work arrangement policies. But, currently right now where we are is that we are revisiting our policy to make sure that it's more adaptable, and that even after the pandemic is over, what is that new remote work going to look like, and how are we as an organization going to make that work for everybody, and how can we do it differently and make it more of a permanent work setup rather than just a temporary setup. So we've still been productive, and if there were any challenges, as I mentioned, Lawrence, is really just that personal connection, and just being able to meet somebody right away, or even not just to talk about work, but just to talk about anything, just to shoot the breeze or connect with somebody. That I think is the key aspect that's missing right now. So, other than that, I think remote working has been, I think it will be here to stay.
Yep. So, in terms of total rewards and mobility, what are you doing now that you weren't doing this time last year, and what have some of these big changes been?
So not that we were not doing it before. Prior to COVID, our focus definitely was on employee experience and understanding the future of work. Well, COVID hit, and by the end of March, April, the future of work suddenly got here. And we're still focused on employee experience. However, we've shifted our focus also onto becoming a more agile organization. And what that means is, to be able to constantly anticipate what's changing or what's going on out there, so that we can anticipate any changes that may impact organizations and employees, and then prepare for how we're going to reply or respond to those changes. We've also increased our wellness offerings. As from a total rewards perspective, we had been offering a lot of wellness programs in the past, but this year we've intensified that, just because of the situation that we're all in. We heavily focused on mental wellness, physical wellness, making sure that everybody's still taking care of themselves, as well as financial wellness, because the pandemic, the pandemic's impact on the economy is just something that we all have to be aware of, and something that we should all be prepared to respond to. And so we're providing our employees a lot of resources, so that they may, the resources that they can tap into, so that they know where to go to for advice. And of course, a lot of organizations have the EAP program. And so that's something that we also re-advertised over and over again as well. Again, it's making sure that our employees have access to all of these resources, so that they are able to still take care of themselves, as well as focusing on their overall wellness. And communication, I mentioned this again. Communication is something that's very important. So constant communication with employees, especially when the personal interaction is absent, then let's replace that with constant communication. And thank you to technology that we're able to do this. And so let's take advantage of that. And so far, we've been successful in terms of promoting employee engagement through constant communication, and constantly looking for ways to adapt to the changing work landscape. And it's also, I've also seen an uptick in collaboration. Again, because we're so far away from each other, that now you just schedule Zoom, and hey, you're with your team, and you're talking to all the stakeholders. So I think it's brought some opportunities as well for us.
I love what you said, that come March, the future of work was here. Now we're middle of December. Right in the middle of the holiday season of what has been a crazy year. I think Do you feel that, the HR and organizations are still in crisis response mode, or has it stabilized more?
So I don't think we are in crisis mode anymore, at least not in the same extent as where we were in March, April, May. I don't think it has stabilized either, and I don't think it will ever stabilize. I think as HR professionals, our work has shifted a bit. And I think our roles, we have to just constantly understand, constantly be aware of what's going on so we can better anticipate and plan on how to respond to change. It's almost like I remember when I was thinking about this question, it's like what my dad always taught me in terms of driving, is to expect the unexpected. And so as HR professionals, I really think since COVID broke out, and all of these issues in the US that we experienced, diversity, the issue on diversity, the election, and how all of that is impacting the economy. I think, like I said, it's as HR professionals, we have to expect the unexpected. I think we now have to constantly anticipate change and how, so that we can better respond to all of these changes. And, COVID, I think, is a learning experience for all of us. My hope is that we don't wait for another pandemic to assess and hit the reset button. I think, every year, and this is actually a perfect time of year, which is the end of the year, to always look back and reflect on what we were doing and what did we do, what went well, what didn't go so well, so that going forward, we can plan on, how we do things differently and better. So we're not in the crisis mode anymore. I think we're moving towards a better direction at the end of this year. But I don't think it will stabilize either because, I think change is here to stay as well. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, with our yeah, absolutely. Well, with our final question here, you mentioned taking this opportunity to look back and see what we've learned. For you personally, what has been your biggest learning in 2020?
I have a couple actually, Lawrence. So, the future of work being here, I think, it validated for me and for a lot of people who didn't realize this before the pandemic is that how essential our work is in HR. It really, since COVID broke out, HR was thrust to the forefront. We almost became the frontliners to the corporate world. I found myself in March looking at all of doing some research on, in the states that we operate in terms of, their benefits for unemployment or for anything that we can, tap into so that we can design or develop our own policy. So unprecedented that we had to really figure out what we needed to do. So, as HR professionals, I think it's an essential work. It's so essential in terms of, we're always thinking about the business and how we continue the business. But at the same time, we have to balance that with understanding what our employees' needs are, how we attract them, we motivate them. We always hear that, the attraction, retention, and motivation. We are doing that at the same time that we're understanding our business needs. Because at the end of the day, we have to deliver, right? So HR is not an easy job for people out there who think that it's not just about helping people. It's helping the people, and it's also helping our business. So, one thing's for certain, as I mentioned, change is here to stay, and HR just really needs to be adaptable and resilient and understand the changing work landscape brought on by a lot of these factors, such as technology, the changing demographics, the generation of workers, the diverse population, and then the politics and the economic status as well. So a lot of these factors we have to think about and understand how that's impacting the organizations. The other learning that I have from 2021, which I hope will be here to stay as well, is I've seen more and more articles and studies, and within our organization as well. I'm fortunate to be in an organization that promotes respect, but I've seen an uptick on kindness in the workplace. Kindness, compassion, empathy. Those are words that I've heard a lot of this year, which, you would think that it's something that should have been here a while back, right? But it's something that we're taught at home as well. So I think that just, the pandemic just magnified the importance of kindness in the workplace. And there are studies that have been, the research that have been done that proves that kindness is contagious, and kindness motivates employees, makes employees happier. And with happier employees, you have, more productivity, and productivity increases revenue and market share. And, happier employees also, the way our employees are reflects towards how they treat customers. And again, customers is, how happy are customers? That's what businesses would want to have, right? Happy customers. So, I think kindness should be here to stay. That is my vote, at least. And at the end of the day, it's going down to your legacy, what you want to be remembered for. So those are my two learnings, is that how essential HR is, and as well as promoting more kindness at work.
Well, kindness certainly has my vote as well. I hope that is here to stay. I know in 2020 it's been something, everybody needs a bit more of, but in the future as well, everyone can deal with more of that on a regular basis. I certainly agree.
Absolutely.
Well, Kate, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. We certainly appreciate it, and safe and well wishes to you and yours in this holiday season.